So I have 2 quick slides to go through just to give you the lay of the land of what we're going to see. And I have a couple of very quick demos, and we'll go through each one of them, and we'll do some of the kind of amazing 5-minute demos that will hopefully show you the power of Informatica Cloud. First one, we'll do a quick tweeting, or really chat to tweet. We're going to pull data from Twitter and then load it into Salesforce. And we'll actually show some real-time syncing from SAP to Salesforce. We'll do an account sync where we'll actually build it. We'll push a button, and we'll bring data into Salesforce from our internal systems using a button, just pushing a button. And we'll show syncing a contact that I'll create back out into my on-premise system, right, directly from Salesforce using a trigger. And then we'll replicate data out. And these are a lot of common use cases that we come across. But the flow is we'll create accounts, opportunities, and contacts, and then we'll pull all that data out, right, kind of show you the whole roundabout. But first we'll take a look at the elegant architecture. So this is more of like a data flow. You'd set up an Informatica Cloud account by registering at informaticacloud.com, and it'll typically take you 5 to 10 minutes to really set up and install and configure what you need before you get started. But what we'll do today is we'll start in the browser, right, and we'll start from Salesforce, and then we'll access services, right, and you'll see these different services that we'll run and we'll build things with. So this, on the top right, is the Informatica Cloud, right, and the bottom right is Salesforce Cloud. Right, and this could be other clouds, but these are great ways to show you the data as it comes through. And what's going to be the magic that brings everything together is what's called a secure agent, and this sits behind the customer's firewall, and this safely and performantly and securely transforms and manipulates the data. And our examples today will show data moving from SAP into Salesforce. We'll show data from Oracle going into Salesforce, right? And then we'll go reverse. We'll take the data the other way, and we'll bring it out of Salesforce into Oracle. And we'll probably do this in about, I'd say, a good 10 to 12 minutes, maybe 15 at the most. But we'll do it all from the browser, which is pretty cool. And I'll also point out at the top here, there are currently about 190,000 jobs a day running, customers using Informatica Cloud, and it's well over 22 billion rows a month. So it's probably by far the biggest mover of data in the cloud space today. And real quick, I'm working with a retail customer, and over the course of pretty much maybe 6 hours, we loaded about 55 million rows of data into Salesforce. And it was probably less than that. It was some troubleshooting going along the way, but some huge volumes that we can handle. So let's jump into it. I'm going to navigate over to my browser.
Yeah, and Mark, I was just looking at trust.informaticacloud.com earlier today, and we ran 194,000 integration jobs yesterday. So it's a pretty impressive volume on the job count as well as the records.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, you know what? I actually have, I'll pop that up real quick. Here's the trust site that everybody can go out to. So you can actually see 194,000 jobs. So it's growing like the SaaS marketplace is. Just to point out here, if you go to informaticacloud.com, you can navigate to the trust site, and you can see all about our security, whatnot, and then you can even log into the cloud app. But we're going to start in Salesforce, and you can see that I have some chatter going on. The first thing I want to do is actually post a tweet, right? And we're going to actually see that pop up in Salesforce in a second. So we're going to go to Twitter, and my machine just slowed down, of course. There we go. And I'm going to pop in a tweet. And this is somebody that's on the call today. I just picked a name so you can see this is all real, and I'm going to go tweet it. Now, in the background, as Ernest said, some of the things you want to have are real-time. Some of the things are automated. Well, right now in the background, I have a process that runs every 5 or 10 minutes, pulling tweets from Twitter, looking for anything with @Informatica Cloud. And it's going to load a warehouse internally so that my internal folks can report off of it. And it's also going to load data into Salesforce, right, and then attach it as a case to a customer. So it's kind of cool. I'm doing all this in what's called a task flow, and we'll see that in a second. But again, I'm not showing you anything Informatica Cloud, right? This is happening all behind the scenes. And the other use case is, if we jump back to Salesforce and we go into our accounts, I don't have any accounts loaded yet. So we could say this is our first time loading. And also in the background, I have a real-time SAP sync going on. So we're going to jump over to my SAP send customer, all right, and I'm going to actually send a customer over from my customer master. And so back in the background, the plumbing, which is Informatica Cloud, is sitting there listening for this real-time piece of information to come across. So we'll jump back to...
So you've got a lot going on in the background, but from an end user of Salesforce perspective, they have no idea.
They don't know and they don't care, and that's the whole point, right? It's seamless to them. And if we refresh, our customer just came through. Right? There was nobody here before, so now let's take that into Informatica Cloud. So we're going to switch hats. I'm going to kind of put my developer hat on, and one of the cool things about Informatica Cloud is that you can directly integrate it into Salesforce. Right? So you'll see an integration tab, and your general users are not going to have this. This will just be my super user, right, or my Salesforce administrator. All right? And it opened up the window behind here, and the first thing that I see when I come in is my activity. So you'll notice that it's tab-driven, so it's easy to move around in like Salesforce or SaaS apps in general. And you can see here's my chat to tweet running in the background. So every 10 minutes, let me click into this. Every 10 minutes, he's going out and polling Twitter to get that has info in it. And then I'm loading it into a data warehouse. I'm loading it into Salesforce as a contact, new contacts. And then I'm associating a case, that's a tweet, right? And then I'm chatter posting it. So this is called a task flow, so I can run multiple tasks in one step, which is pretty neat. And we'll finish that. And then on the other side, so this is all the things that have happened in the past. And if I looked at my email account, I've already been notified that my chat to tweet was successful, that down here I had a Oracle EBS that failed because, something happened. I know already before I even get into work. So it's on my BlackBerry, right? It's on my iPhone. Plus, there's actually an application that you can see your activity log on an iPad, on a Droid, on an iPad. So some pretty neat stuff to actually manage and maintain your environment. But I'm going to navigate across to my monitor. And you'll actually see I have my SAP process running in the background, and it actually was grabbing rows. If we pop back to SAP, let's send another customer over so we can see this happen in real time. Let's do 2001 to 2005. All right, we'll just let that go, and that's going to be just listening, all right? Just listening for more rows to come over. There it goes. Just brought in new customers. All right, so my end user, he doesn't know. He just knows that his data is where it's supposed to be when it's supposed to be there. So pretty neat stuff. And let's go take a look to see if that chat to tweet found my tweet yet. So it's running, I think, on a 10-minute schedule. So let's just go look for me.
And Mark, so just to back up a second, because you started with some pretty cool functionality, but what I'm seeing here is you've got an integration tab in Salesforce. Is that pretty common where people will embed this right within their CRM environment or a Salesforce.com environment? How does that work?
I haven't seen anybody but Informatica make it this flexible. And again, I can sign up for an account and have this done at the same time, so which is really neat. But again, it's only going to be for me, like as an administrator. It's not going to be for my end users. But it's a powerful, simple way for me to create my real work environment, right, to what my end user sees. So it makes my work a lot easier to do. And my customer obviously, has his data when he needs it. So let's click into me for a second. So I'm a actual customer, right, or a contact, and we can take a look. Look, I'm already here. You can see Mike already showed up now. So it's pretty cool. So that's just running in the background. Anybody that tweets during on call, I'm gonna pick them up. And that was run through a task flow. And like I said, what it's doing is multiple, right? It's pulling the tweet, it's putting it into a local data store for my on-prem guys, and then it's putting it out to the cloud for my ultimate end user who might need this when he goes into a client, right? Hey, what are the current problems that we're seeing out there? But it's a nice way to marry everything.
That's really cool. Hey, so Mark, as you go through kind of an overview of how to do some of what you've done, because I'm getting some questions coming in about how easy it was to make that SAP integration work. I'm getting some questions about some of the differentiators for Informatica Cloud versus other tools. Specifically, a question came in about how this might be different than SQL Server and some of the integration tools from Microsoft. Sure.
That's a good question. We're going to go build. My next step is going to actually let's go build a task so you can see how easy it is. Now, we're looking at Informatica Cloud today, just Informatica Cloud only. But the real important point to remember is that Informatica has a full-fledged data integration platform that has every kind of thing you could think of from soup to nuts in integration. So that secure agent that I showed in the PowerPoint presentation is actually the flagship Informatica technology. So I can integrate, or I can bring in integrations that I've built in what's called PowerCenter, our flagship product, and have them run here, and vice versa. So I have this marriage, this hybrid approach to integration also. So even more so. And actually, there was another process that just popped up. And somebody was running something else as we spoke, because this is a multi-user environment. Another really cool thing, that I can have multiple users working at the same time, all from the same interface. So let's jump into services. So services are, if you remember my PowerPoint with the Informatica Cloud on the top right, different integration services, and you'll see here data synchronization, contact validation, which allows me to validate and correct my addresses, replicating, getting that data out of Salesforce, assessment, I can actually look at the health and welfare, and PowerCenter, meaning I can pull in fully baked integration services and have them deployed in the cloud. So really, really, really neat functionality. But we need to get account data into Salesforce so that my end user can actually go make and sell our products. So we're going to work in our data synchronization tool. We're going to click New, and now I've surfaced a 6-step wizard, and we'll call this let's say our webinar. We'll call it our webinar account load. All right, so I'm going to put comments in so I know what I was doing. Next, I'm going to select what I'm going to do, and we're going to select a certain option for Salesforce, an upsert, because as Ernest said, we're going to take advantage of keys for enhanced integration capabilities for data quality purposes. My next step is to source that data. Then I have these things called connections. So think about that picture before, that agent. Wherever that agent lives, and I can see data, I can configure a connection and get to it. And you can see in my drop-down list, quite a bit of things I've configured to get to. But I want to get to Oracle right now. So I'm just going to navigate down to my Oracle. Now it's already gone across the internet through that agent and found everything that I'm allowed to see. And we want to pick account data. And it'll give us a little preview. And at this point, it could be a view. Right? I could do joins on it with multiple, or I could do custom, which is SQL pass-through. And if we look at the connection, you can see it's the standard info that we would need. I could lock this down so a user can't see it. I could also turn off the view of the data if I wanted to.
And Mark, let me just bring Ernest in for a question while you're looking at these sources and targets.
Surely.
So Ernest, a couple of people at CloudForce 2 weeks ago talked about SAP. Are you guys seeing increased integration needs for ERP applications? The big kind of classic legacy ERP systems. Are you seeing a growth in demand for NetSuite and cloud-based ERP? What are you seeing as a trend?
We're seeing a growth in demand, particularly around the cloud-based systems. And we're actually seeing a large growth in demand, not for necessarily cloud-based ERP, although we're seeing growth in demand for everything, but what we're seeing in particular is requirements for cloud-based systems in general. So things like services like Box.net, services like Zuora, services like Salesforce.com being one of the obvious examples. But these API-based systems that, Twitter as an example, that are real-time in nature and that are social in nature. We're seeing a lot of those coming down the pipe right now.
Okay, great. And so maybe after you go through this, Mark, you can also show our marketplace, and I think that would be interesting for folks on the webinar. So sorry to interrupt your flow. Let's keep it going. Not
at all. That was a great stopping point. And you can actually see I just pulled up a Zuora connector, right? So you guys can see that too. So I want to put this into Salesforce. So let's go pick my Salesforce connection. And again, really simple to create these. Right? Test, dev, prod, whatever I need to do, really easy. And it's surfaced all the metadata, including any custom object I'm allowed to see. And we want to pick the account data. And again, we'll see a little bit of a preview in a sec. Right, and this is the data we loaded from SAP. We can filter it next. So maybe I just want to get the customers, right, that are showing up from NYC, right? Maybe it's a lead list, whatever. But I can build simple to very complex filters. But here's where the rubber meets the road, and we make it super easy for an end user, mapping it and transforming it. So we've already done whatever we can by matching the fields, and now as an end user or developer, I just drag and drop, state to state, all right, country to country, really easy mapping, city to city. And I'm kind of faced with a dilemma when I come to my billing info, street data. I have two on one side and one on the other. Well, I can really take advantage of transformation logic or transformation functions, just drag and drop, and now that's surfaced about 150 different functions I can start to manipulate and correct my data with, build rules, whatnot. So let's bring over one more, our required account name. And then you'll see icons to tell me about the metadata, so I know what I'm working with. I know it's a key. I know it's an external ID. I can open up the expression to work on it. I can do a lookup to pull data from another system, or just simply step on it, and we'll open it up. And this gives me my expression editor with all the functions. So let's do a quick, this will be our and now that's pretty ugly, right, going in there? And I've seen this many, many times come into play where the data's going in. You know, this is simple, but it looks ugly to an end user. Well, I have the coolest function. So if I go into my all functions and I pick, well, I'll pick my character folder. And what I want is what's called a init cap. Now I have the standard upper, lower, whatnot, you know, trim, L trim, R trim, but this cool one called init cap will take everything and put it in proper case, capital C, capital I, lowercase everything else, and make it look uniform. So let's validate. There we go, we're good. And I could be done, or I can schedule it. Right? I want to automate this process. And again, Ernest was talking about next step. Apex Data Loader, it's just loading. Well, what happens when I want to automate it? What happens when I want to have control over it? Email notifications, right? All built in. So I could pick, run this on a schedule, right? Pick something that you built, or build a new one. We'll skip that for now. I have another option to make this an outbound message call, which we'll see in a second. I have the ability to notify specific people. There's always a global notification, but maybe this is a new one, a new task, and I'm going on holiday, and I want to notify Ernest only when there's a failure, right, for the 2 weeks that I'm away. I have the ability to do pre-commands and post-commands, and then some Salesforce specific. And just last week when I mentioned about the retailer I'm working with, that's how easy it was to pull in the bulk loader and monitor the jobs and then create a success file. That easy. All right, so some beautiful ease of use. So let's save this. Now, let me steal the text right there so I don't have to type it in again. That's somewhere deep in my list. We're going to create a view and go find it. And we'll just say, we'll call it our account load, and we'll just look for anything with webinar in it. There it is, and let's fire it off. So that's going to run in the background. One of the things I never like to leave a customer without is help. So you always have the account team, but you have help built into the app itself. So if you click on support, you can literally open a ticket with Informatica support right from the application. Right. Also, your YouTube channel with a couple of hundred videos to show you what we're doing. Cloud community, right, for self-help and helping others. Regular online help, and then if you want to chat with a support specialist. But let's go home. And then our task ran, and if we click into it, you know, for the very, very technical among us, here's the activity log, so you can see the deep details of what SQL or SOQL was generated, how long it took to run, you know, all that good stuff. And if there was an error file, you'd see it here too. Then let's go back to Salesforce, and we're going to navigate to our accounts. All right, we'll look at all of our accounts now. So you can see the ones that came in from SAP. They don't have our little business rule applied to it, right? So you can actually see the difference. And let's click into Burlington. All right, our business rule was applied, right? Our cloud trigger. Remember how ugly it was before? Now it looks good. You know, all of our related information we loaded here. And now, well, I don't have any other related data, but remember when I said I'm going to take advantage of bringing keys in and stuff? Well, I did, and I applied them to a field, and I gave it an attribute of external ID. This gives me the glue to bring things together automatically, right? I can, as long as my next set of data has that key, I can relate it together dynamically using Informatica Cloud, and I've done that by just setting up an Informatica Cloud task to run from a trigger. Now, this is going to call our REST API. So when I click Get Opportunities, that just went out and kicked off a real-time task. So I'll navigate back to Cloud, and I'll go to the monitor, and it might have run already, right? Let's go back. Let's go to the log. It did. It ran already. So it actually fired this off, and it pulled in, 34 rows in 8 seconds, right? So if we go back to Salesforce, and you'll notice there's nothing here. Let me just refresh. All right, now I have a related opportunity. But the beautiful thing about this, go back to Cloud. If I click into this, it's the same 6-step wizard. All right, so it's the same wizard I've been working with, but I called it a different way. And the glue, where Informatica Cloud, in the case of Salesforce, how we make it so easy to build these related lookups. If once this data previews, you'll see I've carried forward that account ID, all right, whatever the customer might call it, my internal ID, my SID. So I have it on my whatever child record it is, and then when I map them together, we make it super simple. I just say, hey, click on the Related Objects button. And then I already know that opportunity is related to the account, but how, right? There's a couple of different ways, right? I have a few IDs out there, but I populated this field with the data I need, and that's it, right? And then I just drag over that field. And voila, we do the automatic lookup, right? The lookups and link it together for you automatically. So simple stuff, complex stuff made very simple.
So let me bring you in again on this, Ernest. I mean, how frequent are these the use cases you've seen from Mark? Are these the main use cases you guys see at Cloud Trigger? Are there others as well that you'd want to mention in this kind of an overview?
I didn't want to break Mark's flow, but as I was looking at that field mapping, I was sitting here cheering with my phone on mute. The social network is great. It allows us to communicate. The explosion of service-oriented architecture and various systems out there that we can pull data from in real time is great. But I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy. I like my data to be clean, and I like it to be well formatted so that it can be reported on, and so that I can automate my processes. And the situation of combining multiple street lines into a single address field, or breaking up a record into multiple records, those are very, very common situations, especially when you're dealing with accounts and contacts and opportunities, which are core to any business's operation. And the ability to do that in a drag-and-drop way that is documentable, that is reportable, is just incredibly valuable.
So let me ask you, we've got a question from our friend Doug McLean, who you may know. He's mentioning they're seeing a lot of real-time lookups into things like inventory levels in SAP. I guess question for both Mark and for you, Ernest, is that anything you can talk about how people solve that problem or the frequency of that problem?
So real-time inventory lookups, real-time credit status lookups, real-time payment status lookups are very, very common, especially in manufacturing and distribution companies where you want to be able to take a user's order, but you don't necessarily want to ship the product when they haven't, when they're not up to date on their payments and things like that. Inventory lookup, same type of situation. We want to be able to take their order, but we know that we can't ship immediately. And inventory, particularly, data changes on a per-minute basis. When you're thinking about a call center with a 2-minute a call center with a 2-minute call cycle, you're taking thousands of orders a day. You want to make sure that you have up-to-date inventory, because that's going to help you make sure that you have satisfied customers. It's going to help you order new parts. It's going to help you make sure that you're selling and upselling the right products so that you can keep your business profitable.
And Darren, that's perfect. I have a few minutes left, and I'll actually incorporate that in just a second. A real-time example of that. I want to create a new contact real quick, and we're going to use our, we'll just say this is going to be, I already have Ernest's name. We'll go steal it. Oh, I don't. We'll take Mike Taylor. I thought I had Ernest's name out here, so we're just going to steal that. And I'm going to create a new contact. All right, I'm going to save that. Now, I have a little button down here, sync to back end. So as soon as I save this, I have an outbound message set up. So it's a workflow rule that says, hey, when a new record's created and you check this button, kick off an Informatica Cloud task and then write that to my back end. So I'll do save and new. So under the covers, it just kicked off an Informatica Cloud task just for that record. So if I go back to Cloud, and we'll give this a second, we should see the task pop up in just a second here. We'll come back. And once that pops up, it's going to be listening for, oh, I'm not in the right place. Maybe that's why. Go to my monitor. So there it is. So it's sitting there waiting right now for records to come through. So let's go create a new one. Well, this is going to be, all right, there's Darren Cunningham. We're going to sync it, and we'll save that. And then we'll go back, and this will refresh, and we'll see. There it is. The other row just came through. So that in real time got loaded to my on-premise system. But the beauty of it is I'm going to use, let's go back into the monitor. And our chat to tweet just ran again. As I go into this task and re-edit it, it's the same six-step wizard. Now, the only difference here is that it's a Salesforce source, and my schedule, it says run this task in real time upon receiving an outbound message. And in Salesforce, all I need to do is create a workflow rule, an outbound message trigger, and then paste in this URL, and then map the fields. And that's it. And it uses the source here, the contact, as the signature. These are the fields that are going to be passed. Done in 5 minutes. Beautiful. I mean, it's just one of those so easy to do things.
That's really cool.
And the other thing, what we just mentioned, was the real time. So some of the use cases come to us, Salesforce might be expensive to store all that data, and you don't want to store it. So you do want to be able to pull some of that data in real time. So if we go back to Salesforce, and let's go back to our accounts, and let's pick one of our SAP accounts. That's Sudatech guy right here. And once this page comes in view, we'll see a couple of things. And so here's that Sudatech. That's the first one. We'll see mashup. Let it paint. And then down below that, we see all the SAP information. But down below that, we see all the order information, right? The active orders from SAP. Well, it's mashup. But this called out to an Informatica web service to reach into SAP dynamically and pull in the latest orders. And so there's that example of, I don't want to store it in Salesforce because the data is too frequent, or I don't want to, I don't need it up there all the time. So here's another way to display that data to the customer. So I know we got just a few minutes left, but the very important demo, we have all that data in Salesforce now. We need to get it out, right? And potentially to report on, to marry to other systems for a variety of reasons. But watch how fast we can make it happen. Now, this is going to be the amazing 2-minute demo. So it's 1:54. I'm going to navigate back to Informatica Cloud. We're going to navigate to our data replication service, and we're going to go to Toad. So here's a database tool. Now I'm going to refresh my Toad, and in here, here's my table list. Now there's nothing with a CT underscore for cloud trigger, right? You'll see all the tables. They're not in here. Watch Informatica Cloud make this happen. So replication, and again, we'll say this will be our webinar. We'll call it our BI extract, if I can spell. Now, it's a 5-step wizard. Most folks just use step 1, 2, and 5. So we're going to pick Salesforce, the one we just loaded. I'm going to now select some objects, like the account, contact, because we loaded them, the opportunity, and then the case, because I know there's a lot of case objects in there. And that's where I'm writing my tweets to. And then I'm going to tell it where to go. All right, we're going to say, make this go to Oracle, and it's going to be CT. Now, at this point, it's typically 1, 2, and 5, as I mentioned, but we're just going to do 1 and 2. I'm going to save that. Now, that's going to be our webinar, so it's going to be down below. And there's our webinar, and we're going to fire that off. So what's happening now is it's saying, wait a second, you've never run before. I've got to go create those metadata targets. So it's saying, okay, I know what Salesforce looks like. I know I'm going to Oracle. Create the table that looks just like the account object. Now, it's done already. I know that. So it's going through each one of them. So the first time through, it actually will go create that metadata and then load all the records. All right, let's go look. So I'm just hitting refresh, and there they are. They are the tables. And if we look at the data, you'll see this is our data. And if we open it up, you'll see this is the stuff we just loaded. So go back to cloud. It's done already. We go to the log. You could just say it created 4 tables and loaded over 1,000 rows in 30 seconds. That's pretty cool stuff. And where it gets more powerful is if I go back to Salesforce, and let's go to one of our contacts, and let's just edit a contact. We'll edit Darren. We'll give Darren a title. He's a director. So we'll save that. Now, in reality, the the replication task is going to be running on some frequency. And if we just go fire that off, what's happening now when it runs, it's saying, wait a second, you ran already. Before you go anywhere, compare the metadata. See if they changed the account object and added a new field or changed something. Oh, they did? Okay, go add that new column to the target database. Great. Now go back and get the changes since you last ran. So not only does it just get the changes, but it also will modify the metadata because your metadata can change on the Salesforce side pretty easily, right, as you're growing your business. So it takes that into account. So in 3 or 4 or 5 clicks with typing a few things in, it actually created the tables, it loaded all the data, and now it's going out there and looking to see if the metadata changed and looking for changes in the data, like all in a couple of clicks. I'm not a DBA, right?
Hey, Mark, that's you did that so quickly, but we do have to wrap, so I want to just kind of conclude. So really what you showed here is you showed the ability to quickly get information in. You showed the ability to synchronize different systems with that Salesforce, so everyone gets that single view, that social enterprise kind of single view of customers, products, et cetera. And then you also showed how to get data out. So the replication service and being able to capture the changes in real time is pretty powerful.
Exactly.